Hey everyone, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in my tiny house, living a more intentional life. It's actually Saturday today, but this will be uploaded on Wednesday. And on the weekends, I like to make an actual bigger breakfast. I'm not a huge breakfast eater during the week, but one of the favorite things that I like to make on the weekends is tofu scramble. And I have had surprisingly a lot of requests from you that are enjoying the cooking videos for my tofu scramble recipe. There's just only so many variations on spices that you can put in your tofu scramble. I'm going to show you my recipe, how I make it. I make it a little bit different, and then show you how you can use some of the leftovers. So if that is of interest to you, stay tuned. So the first thing you're going to need is obviously some tofu. I like to use medium firm tofu when I'm making my tofu scramble, just because it actually is a little softer, a little bit closer to the texture of scrambled eggs, and it's got a bit more moisture in it, which I actually kind of like in my scrambled eggs. So just one carton, whatever size, of medium firm tofu. You can use firm tofu. I wouldn't use anything softer than medium firm. Then I like to put in some onion, red onion, about a half of one of these, one red pepper or green pepper. If I had green onions, I would actually add those, but I don't. So these are the veggies that are going in today. I'm going to look in my fridge to see if I have some mushrooms. If I do, I will throw them in, but I don't think I do. Then, as far as spices go, you're going to need a little bit of turmeric, some smoked paprika, some onion powder. Yes, I know we have onion in it, but it's always good to add a little bit of extra spice. The thing about tofu scramble is that it actually doesn't have any flavor, so you need to really put a lot of spices in there, just like regular eggs don't have any flavor, so you have to spice them up. So onion powder. Now you can use garlic powder, or I'm going to use this Mrs. Dash garlic and herb seasoning, but just regular garlic powder would work too, not garlic salt. A little bit of lemon pepper seasoning, some yellow curry powder, not the hot stuff, some salt, or some Kala Namak. I hope I'm saying that right. If you are of Indian descent, I apologize for my mispronunciation. It's Indian black salt. Ironically, it's not actually black, it's kind of pinky, but what it does is give a real eggy flavor to the food because it's got a lot of sulfur in it. And if you're going to use this, you want to sprinkle this in at the very end, because when you cook it, it actually kind of loses that eggy taste. So either one. Some pepper, brown pepper, some nutritional yeast, because nooch goes in everything that's savory that I like, and some olive oil to saute your vegetables. For utensils, you want a bowl to mix your spices and tofu together before you put it in the frying pan. Some measuring cup, some measuring spoons, cutting board, a frying pan with a lid. Oh, and I almost forgot a very important ingredient. Diced hash browns. I like to put hash browns in my tofu scramble because then I can use it for other things afterwards, leftovers. I like to make tofu scramble wraps, and having the potatoes in there really bulks it out so it becomes a meal. Another very important ingredient when you're making tofu scramble: coffee. Oh my goodness. It's nice getting up a little later on a weekend, especially after a very long, busy week. So I hope you guys are doing okay. It's actually warmed up here. It's almost above freezing, and the snow was sliding off my standing seam metal roof, making quite the ruckus while I was trying to do a Zoom call for work. So, you know. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do is drain my tofu. I'm not going to press it. I want the moisture from that's in the tofu, so I'm not going to press it. I'm just going to drain it. And then, taking your bowl, break up your tofu. They don't have to be super small clumps because they are going to break up a bit as you're scrambling the tofu scramble. But, you know, just break it up so that it's in chunks because we want the seasonings to really get in there and stick in there. And I like to season my tofu before I put it in the frying pan because it just gives it more time to absorb the seasonings and get more flavor. You can just, after you've sauteed your veggies, do this into the frying pan and then sprinkle the spices over top. But I kind of like to do it ahead of time. Let it sit while I am cutting up my vegetables and getting everything else ready. Just going to get a bowl to mix my spices in. As usual, you don't have to worry about remembering what the measurements are. You don't have to worry about writing them down. I will put it all in the show notes below the video. I am trying to figure out how to create a printable version of the recipe, but I'm really not very technologically skilled. Everything I learned about YouTube, I learned from YouTube. So maybe that's where I should actually go and get my instruction. So I don't know. Very good. So the ingredients. Oh, I actually need a bigger bowl than this. Because the first ingredient is 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, nooch. It just has this really cheesy sort of flavor, and it's high in B12. So grab a 1/2 measuring cup. So 1/2 in there. Again, you really want to spice up your tofu, any tofu recipe. The spices are the critical piece because tofu doesn't have a taste. Okay, so we've got our 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. We're going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric adds a little flavor, but mostly adds color to the tofu scramble. And again, it's very strong, so you really don't want to use a lot of it, but it's really good for you too. Turmeric is a really strong antioxidant. Any recipe that has curry powder or turmeric in it is really good for your immune system. And I like all those dishes, so that works out good. So then 1 teaspoon of the following spices. I'm using smoked paprika. You could also use sweet paprika. I wouldn't use the hot paprika. Unless you really like hot paprika, then do that, because really, who am I to tell you? Just paprika of some kind. 1 teaspoon of onion powder, not onion salt. I'm going to use this Mrs. Dash garlic and herbs, but again, you can just use regular garlic powder. But again, I like to add lots of seasonings. So this is really nice, and it's not got salt in it, which is kind of good. Then we're going to switch to the 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon. Apparently I forgot that as well. And we're going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of yellow curry. Again, not the hot stuff, unless you really want the hot stuff. And a 1/2 teaspoon of the lemon pepper seasoning. This is Mrs. Dash, but you can find it at the bulk barn. You can also find it at the dollar store, a different, the sort of the no-name brand. And now I am not going to add salt because I do want to use this Kala Namak, and I want to add it at the end. And then if we want to add regular salt, we'll add it then. And I'm just going to do a couple of good grinds of pepper. To taste. Just mix this all around. And now I'm just going to pour this in. Now, that's a lot of seasoning, but I am also adding hash browns. So it's got to season the tofu, the hash browns, and the veggies. Again, you want lots of seasoning. And then just give it a toss. And the moisture from the tofu is going to really make that spices into almost a paste that's going to coat every piece, which is really what you want. So it'll look like that. Let's just set it aside, drink some more coffee, and start cutting up our veggies. So let's just turn on our stove to a medium heat-ish and heat up some oil. If you're going to make this oil free, just use water to saute your veggies. Once that's heated up a bit, we're going to add in our veggies. You can use whatever veggies you like. You know, whatever veggies you would have gotten in a Western omelet or something like that. So you can use any color of pepper, tomatoes, onions, green onions, mushrooms. I didn't have any mushrooms in the fridge. I thought I had. If you're going to use tomatoes, I would add them towards the end of the cooking process because they'll release a bunch of moisture. And at first, in this step, you really want to get your veggies caramelized. And what I actually like to do, even though I'm cooking with oil, I like to add some water in there and then put the lid on to get them to steam a bit to get started cooking. So I'm going to do that. That way you can get them cooking without worrying about them burning before they get to the point that you like. So I'm just going to add that in. I'm going to put the lid on and just give it a couple minutes. So now that these have softened up and caramelized a little bit, so now we're going to add the hash browns. And I've got 1.5 cups of hash browns. You don't have to put these in, but like I say, because I put the hash browns in, it feels like more of a full meal. And it is really good heated up for leftovers or put into wraps. Turn this down to a sort of medium-low because you don't want it to get burnt. So I've been patient and made sure to let the hash browns get a little bit brown and cooked. And now this step is optional. You can just put the tofu right in here, but I kind of like to let the tofu have a chance to get a little bit cooked and browned as well, even though it's already cooked. So I'm going to just put this in a bowl. And just cook my tofu. And try not to get it on the floor. This is where a dog would come in handy, because cats won't eat stuff off the floor. At least my cat won't eat stuff off the floor. So I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit and just give this a chance to cook a little. Get the spices cooked and break up any bigger chunks of tofu. Just keeping in mind that the more you stir it around, the more the chunks are going to break up. So it's really personal preference. So I just let it sit and cook a little bit. And you can start to smell the spices. So like I said, I've used soft or medium firm tofu. Not soft, medium firm. You can use firm. I suppose you could even use extra firm. It would just be really like dry-ish. And I like the medium firm because it's moister. What a horrible word. It's softer and got a little bit more moisture in it and holds on to the spices and is more like years ago when I used to eat scrambled eggs. I didn't like them super dry. Now, is this going to taste exactly like regular scrambled eggs? No. Our goal is not necessarily to make something taste exactly the same as something else. Our goal is to make something yummy and that fills the same spot. So I love having toast with scrambled tofu on it. I used to love that when I was a kid and had eggs, scrambled eggs. And I really like making wraps or even breakfast sandwiches. And so this gives that, fills that spot, that purpose. So I'm just going to give this a taste. It's good. It does need salt, but I'm not going to put salt in until the end. But there's lots of flavor. Okay, so now that that's gotten a little bit, it's gotten warm, hot, and a little bit of the moisture has cooked out, I'm just going to add the rest of the veggies, the rest of the ingredients. And toss it around. If I was using fresh tomatoes, I would add them in now. If I was adding fresh spinach, I would add it in now. If I was using green onions, I would add them in now. So this is pretty much done. Now I'm going to add the Indian black salt, the Kala Namak. Again, I'm really sorry if I'm butchering that name. If you smell it, it smells very eggy because it's kind of sulfury, just like eggs are. So I'm not going to sprinkle it from here because there's not a little shaker on it, and I really don't want to put too much. So I'm just going to start with 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then stir that and give that a taste. Pretty much going to turn this off now. Yep, that was perfect. So that's how you make my version of tofu scramble. Really the only difference from everybody else's is a little bit of lemon pepper seasoning, and I learned that from, it doesn't taste like chicken. A little bit of curry, and I got that from Rose from Cheap Lazy Vegan. She puts curry powder in her tofu scramble mix. And then the hash browns, that was kind of my idea because I was always making hash browns on the side in my air fryer, and I thought, why don't I just, because then they didn't have the same flavor. So I'm just like, why am I getting two things dirty when I could just make it all in one frying pan? So let me show you what it looks like when it's all plated up. Let's give it a taste. I like hot sauce on mine. I guess Frank's Red Hot isn't really considered hot sauce. I get why their slogan is that old lady saying, I put this shit on everything, because really it is really good on pretty much everything that is savory. So here's my portion. I've just got 2 pieces of whole wheat bread. Here's what's left. Adjust the spices to your taste. Leave out anything that you don't like. It will last about 4 or 5 days in the fridge. If I'm not going to get to it, what I will do is I will make a couple of breakfast burritos with the scrambled tofu, a little bit of vegan cheese, a little bit of salsa wrapped up in a tortilla, and then I will individually wrap them and put them in the freezer. So here's my recipe. It's again, it's not earth-shattering. Most tofu scramble recipes will have the same ingredients. They'll have the nooch, they'll have the turmeric, they'll have the onion and garlic, and they'll have the Kala Namak, the Indian black salt at the very end. But you don't have to have that ingredient. It's a little hard to find. I found mine at the Silk Road Spice Merchant shop here in Calgary, but you can buy it online. You can also obviously buy it in ethnic stores. It just gives a little bit more of that eggy flavor. This wouldn't fool anybody that was an egg eater, but my goal isn't to fool anybody. It's just to make good food. If you give this a try, please let me know. I would love to know what you thought. I would like to know what you put in yours. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. So just a quick video to show what I do with some of the tofu scramble leftovers. I'm just going to make a wrap. I've got the tofu scramble, some salsa, and some grated cheese. I'm using this one today. It's the President's Choice cheddar style block. It's actually surprisingly good. But I've also got some of this BioLife shredded cheddar that I could use, and some salsa, and of course a little bit of hot sauce. And I'm gonna make a couple for dinner, and then if I have any leftovers I will make some that I will freeze, but I probably will use the rest of it for dinner. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.